think we should talk about what Truth Addicts is, why we're doing it, what it means to us.
Yeah. So what are truth addicts? Truth addicts are, well, from the name it says that we're addicted to the truth. We want to know about the truth, to find out what is real and what is the truth of any situation. So for me, it also means to really get into the details of things and find out what is happening in the energy worlds as well as in the material worlds. Yeah, because I've been thinking about what we're doing and who we are, because we say we are truth addicts. So what does that mean? I mean, the name obviously says something. It says that we're addicted to the truth. But what does that mean? It means trying to find the truth in any situation, in ourselves as well, and in our relationships with other people, and in our encounters and experiences that we have on a daily basis. And so what does that consist of? So what came to me is that we are looking not only at the material worlds, but also at what is happening energetically in any situation. So there's always those two components, and one doesn't work without the other. So if we have an encounter, there's what we say, there's our words, there's our gestures, but there's also the energy flow and what is behind the words. So whenever we say something, I mean, there's a whole experience why we use the words that we use, and what comes with them. Because clearly when you talk to me, I can feel you, I can feel an energy flow. And that tells me almost as much, or maybe even more, than the actual words. I mean, it's been, I think, proven that communication is to a large degree non-verbal, that we read each other's messages in what we do, and the gestures we have, and the facial expressions. And that we even not maybe consciously, but we do react to those, and we do understand what they mean. You know, we know what a happy face is, and we know what a sad face is, but it's a lot more subtle than that as well, because there's a whole range in between those two. So, you know, little changes in a facial expression can mean a lot, because it can be caused by an energy flow, or by some memory maybe, or by some emotion that comes through. So all this is trying to understand what is really going on. And just to take, for example, I mean, I'm not to go into politics, but when you look at politics, there's obviously the far left, and there's the far right, and then the in between. But perhaps there's a way of understanding what is going on from another level. So not going to the far right or the far left, but to just see what is really going on, and where is the common ground, and what is really good for the country, or good for us, or good for any situation, and try and elevate oneself as much as possible by looking at the truth of any situation. Do you want to say something about it?
I always wanted to know more. Like, nothing was ever quite deep enough, or I kind of got to this place in my life where I felt like everything was skimming the surface. And I really needed the next level, exactly like you were saying, that what was really seemingly on the surface, it always felt quite empty. And so I needed a way to find something that actually inspired me, encouraged me, caused a greater depth of feeling and understanding, because I was really becoming quite frustrated with life and rebellious, very rebellious. And so the thing that actually quenched that rebellion for me was starting to learn that there's a deeper truth to everything. And you have to actually know that it's there, which is why for me, I'm here, why we're doing this, is to let people know that there is something else that's not popularly pointed to or understood or even encouraged, that you can absolutely find, come to know, come to understand, that there's greater things at play, exactly like you said about it being energy. And but not, I mean, that's such a big topic, but hopefully to be able to break it down in such a way that someone could understand that in your day-to-day life, there's much more to be able to connect to be fed by, to more intelligence to have. And it's incredibly nourishing and inspiring. And it feeds something in us that our day-to-day lives really don't. So yeah, absolutely addicted to the truth. And when we started, we looked up addiction. Remember, we looked that up, and I was surprised to find that addiction wasn't something negative, that addiction is actually something neutral. It's just being driven to want something, to want to constantly have it as a part of your life. Because it's always put in context of being addicted to drugs or being addicted to alcohol, as if addiction was actually something bad. But the fact of the matter is, being driven to something good or having a driving force in your life is actually a good thing. So addicted to the truth.
Yes. Yes. So I was looking in preparation for tonight, I was looking at the difference between somebody who is driven in their life and somebody who is not. And it doesn't even quite matter to what, as long as it's not harmful to them. So one can be addicted to, I don't know, video games on the one hand, but to the truth on the other, or to some kind of goal. Maybe somebody is a painter and just is driven to paint all the time, or driven to write. So we all have things that we enjoy doing. And I think there is a big difference if one has a goal in life or a purpose, and that one sees that life is purposeful, that we're here for, in other words, that we're here for a reason. I think that is one of the fundamental questions that a person asks themselves and needs to answer. And when they do, and when they are convinced that there is purpose in life, it changes everything, because it gives you direction. And it gives you purpose, and it gives you a reason to get out of bed in the morning, and to have something to do and to go to and to achieve in life. And I think that is so important. And I really would like that to come across in this conversation tonight, because when a person doesn't, and they kind of start drifting through life and they don't have a purpose, and every day is just either go with the flow or just not sure what they're doing and questioning everything, I think that can cause all kinds of bad addictions, because one tries then to substitute the lack of a purpose with things like you say, like drugs or alcohol, and things that are bad for one.
Absolutely. And I think that I think narcissism plays into that. I think when you don't have a purpose, then everything is about you, because that's the only real outlet for your life. You're coming from your likes and dislikes. You're coming from your wants. You're coming from your desires. But if there's nothing that has more of an importance than just everything being about you, best possible scenario of purpose, then it's very easy to fall into those behaviors. And I mean, I think it's an epidemic in our time.
Yes.
And having a purpose, I don't know that it's as easy to understand necessarily as just saying, well, let's have a purpose. And it's interesting because a dear friend of mine's 12-year-old is having a ceremony, something similar to like a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah, a little bit different, and she asked me, would I write a counsel for this child? And I had to really search myself to think like, well, what would I want to offer to this person? And I realized like, I would want her to have security in life. I would want her to have a sense of self, which to me is the only thing that ever really buys you security. And so I started really trying to think about, where does that come from? And I think that really comes from having a purpose. And I thought, okay, but that's so big. We're talking about a 12-year-old. How would you say to this person who's starting out their life and starting to form themselves up, how would I possibly say to them the importance of having a purpose, or what it means to have a purpose? And what came to me today, which I have to admit I'm quite proud of, is that so much of what the world encourages us to do is figure out who we are. But very rarely are we encouraged to find out what we are. Because actually what the human being is tremendous. And it's so easy in our world to discount it, that someone's just a so-and-so, they're this or that, or they look like this or they look like that. But what in fact the human being actually is, the potential of that. Like I would love to really talk about that and open that up, because I think that if you spent your life really searching your heart and your mind to figure out what it is that the human is, what you are, instead of who you are, that starts to then form up what's the purpose for being here. Because if you don't really know what you are, how do you know what the purpose is for being here? Is it making sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the fact that we can actually make a difference. Because I think one of the problems that people face, and you're right about the addiction epidemic and the opiate epidemic, which is tremendous and really very destructive. So I think one of the problems is that people don't see themselves as being able to make a difference. And yet I totally believe that we can. And not only for ourselves, but everything that we do has an energetic imprint, if you like. So if I have a purpose to, for example, be an empathetic person, a good person, a person who helps others, then that desire and my actions that will then follow that desire have an energy imprint into the world. And I believe it makes a difference. And I think the fact that we don't see energy, it's easy to dismiss, but energy is all around us. And, when there's good things happening, it's contagious. If you go into a room with happy people, you'll probably end up being happy. If you go into a room with miserable people, you'll probably end up being miserable, because the energy of misery will live there, or the energy of happy will live there. And we do make a difference.
Absolutely. And I think there's so many small ways that you can kind of really prove that the energy that comes out of us and goes into us makes a difference. One little thing that I do is as I'm driving down the road or as I'm walking through a store, I try to send good thoughts to people and see if they notice. And it's unbelievable. I can be walking straight behind someone and think to them, like, you are a wonder in God's world. You were made to be this incredible being, and you have so much potential. And they always turn around. And I can be driving down the road and think a nice thought at someone.
Uh-huh.
And literally they will stop and turn around. And I'm in my car. So how could they be walking down the road with their back to me and all of a sudden have the need to turn around and look at me? And it's because I've thought a nice thought of them, and they have absolutely felt it. And I've done it for years, and I know that it works. And there's actually an amazing story. Now, this is, I have to say, have I fact checked this? No. So take this story with a grain of salt, but supposedly here in Florida, there was an accident on the I-95. And you know how everybody tailgates and has to stop and look as they're going down the highway to see an accident. Well, usually no one thinks anything except for, oh, the car's smashed up, or, oh, this is making me late to work, or, oh, they're just taking in the information of what happened. But one particular person very carefully and thoughtfully sent along a prayer for the person who was getting loaded into the ambulance. And the person was, I think, pretty much unconscious. And after the accident happened, this person that was driving and had sent the prayer along got contacted because the person who was going into the ambulance was actually floating outside of their body, looked at their license plate number, and it had made such a difference, that bit of energy, that bit of encouragement, and was actually able to consciously come back and say that made a difference, and consciously able to pick out the license plate number.
Right. Amazing story. I actually read that story too.
Did you?
Yes.
I did too. I haven't fact checked it completely, but I do. I mean, this is the world that I definitely want to live in. These are the truths that I really want to pursue. And it's not to, and I do think fact checking is important, and it's not to blindly, believe everything, but definitely to keep an open mind.
Yeah.
And to go ahead and fact check it, because sometimes what you find when you go looking to check the facts is even more amazing.
It is. It is. And I don't know if you do this, and in a difficult situation, ask for help. Actually speak out loud and ask for help. And I have found very often that helps, and help comes even when you really feel that the situation is hopeless. There is help available there. I think it all comes down to believing that the universe is a gentle place, and there is mercy in the energy worlds of the universe, and it is accessible to us, but we have to believe it and connect to it, become on to that frequency, and it will come. There's all kinds of great energies out there, like patience and care and hope and mercy that we can connect to.
And I think this goes back into what is the human, because absolutely there are all those things out there available for us to connect to. And to me, that says something so special. I mean, there's so much intelligence. There's so many things to be discovered. There's so much wonder, and, there's cures waiting to be discovered. There's incredible works of art waiting to be created. And there's so much potential in all of us.
Yeah, and I think also that a lot of what we experience as disease does come from energies first. So what we think, how we feel, our emotions, what we connect to, our relationships, it all influences who and what we are. And to become healthy and remain healthy and not need opiates and not have the pains of suffering, I think it starts right there in the energy worlds of how we think about ourselves and the world around us, and about our relationships, and how we are with other people, and how we are at work, and how we are when we play, and who we are, and build that strong inner core that is wanting the truth and wanting to be courageous in this world, and and wanting to think for yourself and not be guided by everybody else and swayed this way and that, but just think things through. Don't just take on board what another person says.
Absolutely. Yes. So kind of pulling on this thread of having a purpose, what would you say, like, so say you're hearing this for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to then take it from something that you've just heard into something that maybe you can apply into your life. Where would you start? Where do you start from? Life is just coming at you and it's anything goes, and you're just responding, to being a person who's decided that their life is about a purpose. How do you do that? Where do you start?
Well, try and define that purpose. What is it? Who do you want to be? What kind of person do you want to be? Is there some kind of aim or goal that you have in your life? And if not, then try and find qualities that you want to adhere to and that you want to have living inside your energy field, because we all have an energy field called the aura. And within that energy field are various qualities that we might have built over the years. And so I think to deliberately set out and try and establish qualities, maybe with something that you feel you don't have, like maybe you feel that you're an impatient person, to set out to become patient. One can then have various little callovers that one might have, or just try and have some action that will draw in that energy. Like take the idea of patience. Well, try and just be a bit more patient with, say, with your significant other, or maybe with your child, and watch yourself in those situations, because I think becoming self-aware is very much part of it, and knowing yourself. You know, that old saying is know yourself. It is so important to know who you are, because that's where you are. That's your starting point. You are who you are, right? But it's a basis. It's a foundation. It's a place to start from. So I think every day is an opportunity. I mean, here at home we have this saying that a year is like 365 tries, because every day that you get up, you can try and be a better person. You can try and do something useful and maybe help another, and try and develop.
Yeah. So I'm really glad that we got to have this conversation and to get into all the snippets of things. Starts to pull on some of the reasons why we're addicted to the truth, and the fact that there is so much to discover and explore. And so I'm looking forward to, continuing and seeing what's coming up next. And is there anything else that you wanted to say about the truth as we go?
So going back to truth and what is truth, I just had the thought that we are a truth. You are a truth. I am a truth. We are here on this planet. We were born here. We will die here. And in between those two events, there's a whole life. And within that life, what matters is what we do with it, how we use it, how we live our lives, and what kind of imprint we leave behind when we go. And I think that is the real crux of the matter of what is truth. And I'm personally, I'm getting on in years. I know that the end is coming, but I want to make a difference. I want to leave something behind that makes this world a better place, even in a tiny, tiny amount. But I want to make a difference. And that's the truth of my life. And you are a truth, and you have your truth as well. So what is your truth?